5 drinks that help you lose weight faster and burn off liver fat. Today, we'll discuss 5 beverages that can aid in liver fat removal. To begin with, what is your liver? One of your body's organs is your liver. One of your body's biggest organs. It actually serves a vital function in detoxifying your body, however it does it by way of your blood. As a result, your liver receives a massive volume from your blood. Your blood is filtered by your liver, whose cells essentially cleanse it, eliminate toxins, and then send it on its route to receive additional oxygen and minerals. The liver can actually retain fat since it contains some of it, therefore, excess fat is ultimately transferred to the liver when it exceeds the body's storage capacity. Therefore, consider the liver as a sort of storage space for excess fat, which you can accumulate there until your body needs it. It then burns it down. Okay, so we'll get into this a little further, but the primary purpose of your liver is to purify and detoxify your body. What, therefore, is the relationship between fat, liver fat, specifically, and body fat? I will now take you through the actual process of eating and the role that the liver plays in fat metabolism. When you eat food, it goes into your system, you chew it, it's digested, your metabolism is set up to take the energy from the food you've eaten and store it in your muscles, use it in your blood, and any excess can be stored as body fat. This is true even for healthy foods. It can be stored anywhere in the body. Fat may be stored beneath your skin. It can be stored in the middle of your body as subcutaneous fat. Alright, visceral fat is a type of fat that can be found in your body's tubes. It's normal to have some visceral fat. It's a place for storing. Visceral fat is hazardous in large quantities. And no matter your size, it makes no difference. Your body may have a slim tube, yet it may be stuffed with fat even if you are really thin. After that, you're active, using fuel and expelling energy, and everything is well until it's time to refuel. Thus, visualize your body as a vehicle. You sort of alternate between looking at the petrol tank and realizing it's low and needing to fill up again and driving quickly down the road to take care of business. Eating is the same as filling up, all fine, like a car and a gas station, you store it in your fuel tank when you eat it. Additionally, your body stores energy in body fat until it is completely burned. Okay. On the other hand, what would happen if you did begin to gain weight? Okay, so fat builds up in cells known as adipocytes. You are born with these unique fat cells. It is actually among the first cells to form in your body. And it's important because your body uses adipocytes, or fat cells, as fuel. The adipocyte, or fat cell, is now stretching in contrast to the metal and stiffness of an automobile fuel tank. In fact, if you fill a fat cell with fat, it can expand to 3 times its original size, making it 300% bigger. You can also sort of see how your body resets itself if you do that repeatedly. In fact, that's how fat accumulates. Now, when your body is engaging in physical activity, such as exercising or moving about, it will really draw down the stored fuel. Your body will actually burn off that fuel at night when you're sleeping, so it even does it when you're not moving. Okay. Your body will actually change gears and begin burning off that fat once you stop eating and consuming calories. Okay, you will burn it down even more quickly when you work out or move about. Thus, bodily fat accumulates in this way. In fact, that's how it burned down, and that's only a portion of life's cycle. One of the most frequent reasons for fat to build up in the liver is when your body fat is truly filled up, so let's suppose you're consuming too much. Your calorie intake is excessive, your stomach is going to absorb those calories. Your bloodstream is absorbing them. You now need to store them, they are stored in body fat. A single fat cell can grow 3 times its size, as I mentioned earlier. The following fat cell must then be stored up, which causes it to enlarge 3 times as much. As you're genuinely consuming more calories, the third one repeatedly expanded up 3 times its original size. Okay. When you overeat, you're consuming too much fat, the fat is accumulating. You've kind of ran out of fat, dude. In other words, it stimulates your fat stem cells to produce additional fat cells. Additionally, my medical school lecturers consistently told me that you are born with all of your future body fat. That is untrue. More recent studies have shown that fat may actually produce more of itself, through these stem cells when necessary. As a result, your body stores energy as fat. When you're truly burning off the energy, fat can expand and then contract. However, what would happen if you continue to eat far more than you actually burn down? Correct, this is like a sink, isn't it? Either your kitchen sink or your bathroom sink. Since you have the spigot on, energy is entering. It's similar to fuel entering, you must remove the fluid by draining. In fact, that energy is being burned away by it. Thus, a few things could occur. There won't be any outflow if the sink is blocked. You know what? After that, you can simply fill your sink with water and consume regular portions of food, and it will continue to accumulate until it overflows. This is the true outcome of liver failure, which can occur when the liver is overloaded with fat. Because of their large size, livers that are overloaded with fat are unable to operate normally and burn off the fat. Thus, it simply keeps expanding and swelling and building up the more fat you eat, An further technique to overflow your sink is to turn the spigot to full. However, if you leave it running and the drain remains unchanged, your water level will continue to rise. Your body does the same thing, fuel and fat continue to rise. It will eventually pour over. And this is the real situation with your body's fat cells. You keep eating, overeating, and overeating when you're storing fuel. Your fat cells are now swollen, there will eventually be spills. Similar to a sink with a spigot left open, water will eventually pour from the sink to the floor. Water must go somewhere, you know what? What happens if you eat too much and your body's ability to store that fuel is exceeded? Your bloodstream is where the energy and fat leak out of. You've truly flooded the tank now. The liver in your human body now cuts that overflow. Recall that the liver's function is detoxification. Consider an oil tanker that runs aground and spills all of its oil into the ocean when there is a fat spill. You'll see fat leaking out of your body when it truly occurs. When the body needs detoxification, your liver essentially springs into action. Thus, it takes up and stores all of that fat. Alright, just another sink, that's all. It's just another place to store all this excess fat. The captured energy is not something your body wants to lose. In fact, the liver will store it. The liver becomes fat-filled. Recall that the liver stops working properly when it is overloaded with fat. Additionally, keep in mind that the liver serves as a detoxifier in your body. Your liver accumulates fat when your body has too much of it and it overflows into your tanks of fat tissue. It now stops your liver from working. The liver can no longer cleanse. That can lead to a lot of issues, doesn't it? Because you are no longer detoxifying other things. Additionally, the liver produces proteins. Therefore, your liver will not produce the proper kind of proteins when it is not operating properly. Which proteins? For example, the proteins required for blood clotting. Guess what happens when you suffer liver failure? Those chemicals that really aid in blood clotting cannot be produced by your liver. As a result, you are much more susceptible to bleeding, which can be lethal. Therefore, overtaxing your liver and allowing fatty liver to build up have serious repercussions. This is the reason for our conversation. The thing is this: nowadays, the most common reason for requiring a liver transplant is fatty liver from excessive consumption. That's a big departure from when I was in medical school and I learned that people who were alcoholics had their livers shot and had to have a liver transplant. Additionally, hepatitis patients also had shot livers. Nowadays, it's truly livers because of the oversupply of food, overconsumption of food, and excessive calorie intake. By the way, fatty liver disease, which is not caused by alcohol, is becoming more and more common in younger individuals. Bad, as I mentioned earlier, your liver must detoxify your body. Now, guess what happens when the liver is truly stuffed with fat? It also causes your liver to release fat. You now have lipolysis, in fact. Additionally, you now have fat in your blood. It's not good when your tank is overflowing with fatty liver. What signs of fatty liver do you experience, then? If you have it, you're probably aware of it. It's more like lethargy, malaise, and exhaustion. Overall, you feel a little sour. Additionally, the right upper region contains your liver. Because the liver is somewhat enlarged, you may actually experience some discomfort. You may get cirrhosis when the liver finally shuts down, that is essentially referred to as liver shutdown, liver scarring, and liver shutdown. Itchy skin is one of the things that people encounter. In order to detoxify the blood, the liver is expected to pass a significant amount of it. When it malfunctions, the fluid backs up. You know where that fluid ends up? It is placed in the hollow of your abdomen. We refer to it as the peritoneal space, and ascites is the term for the accumulation of fluid. You can practically hear the tummy sloshing around if you shake it. In fact, in order to drain the fluid, we occasionally need to insert a needle. Having liver failure is a serious issue. Not only does that fluid back up in your tummy, but it also extends down to your legs. How many persons with swelling legs have you seen, then? Well, one of the reasons for edema is liver injury. Additionally, you can insert your finger into the swelled leg, and it will feel like you're inserting it into bread dough. It will result in a pitting area. It's going to leave a mark on the tummy. As I mentioned earlier, circulatory issues are also a symptom of liver failure. Because they resemble microscopic blood vessel spiders growing in your skin, these are known as spider angiomas when they first appear. Naturally, the poisons return because you aren't cleansing your blood, and you know what? Your skin may begin to become yellow, and your eyes sclera, the white part of your eyes, may also turn yellow. Medical professionals like me are actually looking for symptoms of liver disease, cirrhosis, and liver failure in the skin and sclera of the eyes when we examine a patient in the ER, clinic, or intensive care unit. Alright, guess what happens when you reach the last stage, where almost everything is shot? You will require assistance. And receiving a liver transplant may be necessary for that assistance. There aren't enough livers to go around, making liver transplantation difficult. However, the liver is rather resilient before it fails, which is why we are having this entire discussion and why I believe it is really important for me to share this problem with you. In fact, the liver is capable of regeneration. Okay, therefore, you can actually let your liver to sort of grow back, and you can be okay again if you truly unburden it by burning off more fat before you reach the final game. This is where the liver comes in. If you were to remove 2/3 of the liver, the remaining 1/3 would really regrow over the course of several months. The liver is hence very regenerative. It wants to do what it's supposed to do. The importance of it in your body is that great, okay. It is an extremely robust organ. Therefore, you will unpack your liver, unburden it, and let it truly regenerate if you can. If you have a fatty liver and you burn off the fat, burning that fat away is a must if you want to prevent or are headed toward a fatty liver. Okay. And that is extremely important. Now, let's discuss the 5 drinks that you can genuinely consume to relieve liver stress by burning off extra and dangerous body fat. Green tea is the most popular beverage. The all-time favorite when it comes to health, green tea, is back. What's in tea? How does one make green tea? It contains EGCG, or epigallocatechin, 3-gallate, a polyphenol, and catechin. Okay. Also, are you aware of what EGCG does? It has many functions, all right. However, in this instance, it triggers brown fat thermogenesis to burn fat. Let me tell you about this. Brown fat is a unique type of fat in your body, and green tea promotes the thermogenesis of brown fat. It's healthy fat. The wiggly jiggly isn't it? Your arms don't have it. Your chin isn't it? Your muffin top isn't it? Wafer-thin brown fat is deposited behind your neck, between your shoulder blades, behind your breastbone, and on a small portion of your abdomen. Additionally, the EGCG will activate brown fat when green tea does. That causes it to start up similarly to a space heater, okay? Additionally, energy will be needed to generate heat when a space heater is turned on. The process of thermogenesis produces heat, okay? Additionally, the energy that brown fat utilizes to produce that heat comes from extra body fat, such as visceral fat. Okay. In fact, this is a method of activating good fat to burn off bad fat. Additionally, it is a means of reducing the total amount of unhealthy body fat in your body. In fact, green tea is capable of doing this. I also frequently use thermogenesis as an analogy for brown fat. What do you do if you have a gas stove in your kitchen and you want to make some soup or warm up a pot of water? You go to the range, turn on the dial, and then, whoosh, you click, click, click. That's what occurs. You can now bring the saucepan to a boil. You're actually pulling fuel gas into that burner from your gas line, possibly a gas tank at the side of your house, or possibly town gas when you click, 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 whoosh. Then, whoosh, when you light it. You have that flame now, and that's precisely what brown fat does. The fuel from your surplus white fat is being burned down. Alright, that is the difference between healthy and harmful fat. In fact, green tea can achieve that. But how can we be certain that it works? This has been investigated in the lab, and when examined under a microscope, brown fat can truly be affected by green tea and EGCG. More significantly, though, it functions in the clinic. In actual people, it works. Studies conducted in Iran have examined 70 women with metabolic syndrome who are referred from a diabetes clinic, okay? Due to extra body fat and metabolic issues, you are now somewhat on your road to developing diabetes and other health issues. What symptoms indicate metabolic syndrome, then? A big waist circumference, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high blood lipids, and high blood cholesterol. Indeed, waist circumference is a measure of the amount of body fat that is present in a tube of the body. Therefore, your body and cross-section are like a tube, and fat actually grows in the middle of it, regardless of how large or thin you are, right? What happens, then, if your visceral fat, that is, the fat found inside your gut's viscera, expands? Your tube will be stretched out by it. Now, if you had a belt, consider that. When your belt size is normal, you gain too much body fat. Take a look at that. You must remove a few belt holes before you can buckle your belt, correct? Because of this, waist circumference serves as a surrogate and a gauge of your potential excess body fat as well as hazardous body fat. 7 ounces of green tea were given to 70 women in an Iranian study who were in a diabetic clinic with metabolic syndrome. Actually, that's not much, just less than a fluid cup of green tea. For 8 weeks, they provided them to drink it 3 times a day, okay? Another group was given lukewarm water as a placebo. In essence, the tea drinkers consumed their tea for breakfast and lunch in the afternoon. Additionally, the tea drinkers reduced their waist circumference by about an inch and dropped 2 pounds at the end of the 8-week period. This indicates that the visceral fat was burned off. The brown fat is activated by green tea. Click, 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 whoosh. The fuel is burned down and the fat is burned off by the brown fat, and you know what? When you reduce excess body fat, your waist circumference decreases. You can actually employ this type of stuff to unload your liver and relieve the burden of body fat in your liver. The women who drank green tea in this study also had lower blood pressure. Their fasting glucose was improved. It indicates the health of the metabolism. Additionally, their blood cholesterol and lipids were actually improved. Now, these are all positive indicators that your metabolism is improving and that you are reducing excess body fat. If you're struggling with a fatty liver and want to truly ignore it, this will be beneficial. Losing extra body fat is the kind of thing you genuinely want to do. A comparable study was recently conducted by Tehran University of Medical Sciences. They examined 63 males and women. By the way, these individuals ranged in age from 35 to 65. In other words, grown-ups, well, up until middle age, they were also overweight. Moreover, type 2 diabetes affected these individuals. They have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Additionally, the study discovered that if participants drank 4 cups of green tea daily for 2 months, they lost 3 pounds. However, their waist circumference shrank by about 2 inches as well. As a result, they appear to have shrunk by 2 holes. Those belt holes are typically spaced about an inch apart, correct? Therefore, keep in mind that excess body fat causes the waist circumference to shrink. Actually, if you reduce and shrink your visceral fat, you receive a tighter belt. Although the subjects of these tea experiments were not fatty liver patients, the concepts are the same. You have far too much body fat, fatty liver. By eating, exercising, and moving around, you can burn it off. You can also cut back on your food intake, but if you need a little extra support with drinks, green tea is one that can help you burn off dangerous body fat. Alright. In addition, if you enjoy tea, it turns out that most people enjoy green tea. However, if you'd want to try other teas that work as well, here's some good news. It turns out that matcha tea can help you increase your metabolism and burn off unhealthy body fat. For instance, you would truly get that type of vibrant green tea at a sushi bar. Furthermore, green tea is similar to the steeped tea leaves, whereas matcha is a unique tea. You may either put the entire leaf in a bag or leave it loose, and all the beneficial components, such the polyphenol and EGCGs, will dissolve in the water. When using matcha, the entire leaf is pounded into a powder and then mixed in. Thus, you receive the full leaf, all of the polyphenol, all of the EGCG, and all of the dietary fiber. Beneficial to metabolic health, intestinal health, and fat burning. Another tea that has been demonstrated to reduce body fat is matcha. Another type of tea is oolong. Okay. You probably nod your head and say, hey, that's my favorite, if you are familiar with oolong tea. Nowadays, oolong tea is the type of tea that is frequently served in Chinese eateries. It doesn't appear grassy or green, with brilliant greens. Due to its mild oxidation, it has a somewhat oxidized flavor. Although it's neither an English breakfast tea or black tea, it still contains EGCG, the catechin that truly aids in burning excess body fat. Now, it's okay to have Earl Grey or English breakfast tea if you want to go dark. You want to push it to the absolute maximum, though. Pu'erh, pu'er tea is the name of a black tea. This smoky fermented tea was first created in the little southwest Chinese city of Pu'er. Since it is a fermented tea, it contains beneficial microorganisms of its own. It is dry, okay, for a long time. Additionally, it started off as a commerce route. As a result, these little bricks of fermented tea could be transported across great distances without becoming bad. It turns out that pu'er tea can actually reduce your waist size, according to study. It contains catechins and EGCG, and it's a probiotic tea that can help you increase your metabolism. Thus, even though I discussed green tea, we also discussed matcha, oolong, and pu'er tea. Additionally, black teas like Earl Grey and English breakfast tea are excellent. But here's a pro tip. Drink your tea directly if you plan to. Don't sugarcoat it. Okay. Carbs, calories, and sugar. In actuality, you're not helping yourself right now. Your goal is to burn off dangerous body fat. Okay, let that tea take care of itself. Some individuals genuinely enjoy adding dairy to their tea, which is another issue. A small amount of milk is what you want to use to cut your tea. Avoid using dairy. And this is the cause. Cow's milk contains dairy fat, which binds up the polyphenol by forming tiny soap bubbles. After drinking it, the tiny soap bubbles containing the polyphenol just pass through your digestive tract without being fully digested. Okay. So, if you can, drink tea directly. Okay. Nut milk is a good choice if you wish to cut it. Almond milk works well. It's okay to use soy milk. In reality, they don't create such kinds of bubbles. Coffee is beverage number 2. My favorite. Okay. Coffee's effects on metabolism have now been extensively researched. It is undoubtedly beneficial to metabolism. Undoubtedly, it burns body fat. And like green tea, coffee accomplishes this by promoting the thermogenesis of brown fat. Thus, your brown fat is activated by coffee's bioactive ingredient, chlorogenic acid. You can use that fat in your abdomen, behind your breastbone, behind your shoulder blades, and along the side of your neck. And it ignites it, whoosh, click, click, click. After that, your brown fat is producing heat and stealing from your visceral fat, which is your dangerous fat, in order to sustain itself. Activated brown fat releases stored fat from your body and burns down dangerous fat. If you're truly trying to combat a fatty liver, that's excellent. Additionally, coffee and chlorogenic acid actually cause your body to produce more brown fat, which means you'll need to add more gas burners to your stove. Okay, click, 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 whoosh with one is no longer the norm. 6 burners is what you want. You're looking for 8 burners. In fact, coffee will provide you several burners, which will allow you to draw more fuel. Indeed, clinical research has demonstrated that this is effective. Actually, 504 persons were involved, and they were all traveling from Indonesia. They demonstrate that coffee drinkers actually had lower body fat percentages. By the way, even while caffeine can speed up your metabolism, one Indonesian study on coffee consumption discovered that even without caffeine, the chlorogenic acid in coffee will increase your brown fat and actually help you lose weight. Researchers from Singapore, Switzerland, and the Harvard School of Public Health really examined another fascinating topic. 26 men and women between the ages of 35 and 69 were taken. These individuals had insulin resistance and were overweight, correct? They are therefore in danger of getting type 2 diabetes. Additionally, half of the group received 4 cups of coffee per day. It's likely that I have 4 cups of coffee every day. Okay. Additionally, they used robust beans to make their coffee varieties. For 6 months, they also drank 4 cups of coffee every day. I can tell you that I would be drinking at least that much for many, many more months than 6 if you had a kitchen camera on me. Additionally, the second group under study received a placebo that tasted and looked like coffee but really contained no coffee. No coffee, no caffeine. And those who drank coffee drank it at breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, and after lunch, correct? They drank their 4 cups of coffee at that point. Ultimately, they discovered that the coffee drinkers had shed 4.6 pounds, their body fat decreased by 4.6 pounds. Their body fat decreased. In contrast, those who drank the placebo actually put on weight. You mean they put on weight? In the exact other direction. This clearly demonstrates how coffee can aid in the burning of excess body fat. Whoosh, click, click, click. The third beverage is tomato juice. Listen up, I adore tomatoes. I also recall drinking tomato juice constantly as a child. Do you recall the V8 full veggie juice? It resembles a tomato cocktail. And occasionally, I will genuinely consider Bloody Mary next, don't I? Tomato juice. Lycopene is a substance found in tomatoes and their juice. Lycopene is a carotenoid, a naturally occurring molecule that has biological properties. It contributes to the red color of tomatoes and other meals. Furthermore, it has been demonstrated that lycopene-rich tomatoes increase your brown fat thermogenesis. You can burn off excess brown fat by inducing brown fat thermogenesis. According to a Portuguese study, a group of young women in graduate school were given a single ripe tomato to eat every day for about 30 days before lunch. You know what they discovered? That nothing else was altered. Both their visceral and body fat would decrease if they were given only one tomato. In fact, all of their metabolic indicators would rise and their waist size would slightly decrease. Green tea, coffee, and tomato juice will therefore actually have the same effect on the lycopene in tomatoes as all the other items I've discussed. Now, a study conducted in China examined 25 women of normal weight, and they administered 1.2 cups. Okay? You mean 1.5 glasses of tomato juice per day for 8 weeks? Consider this a tomato juice for breakfast. A cup is just a tiny bit more than a cup. And guess what happened at the end of the study? They discovered that these women had reduced their waist circumference and lost weight. Additionally, these researchers discovered that the inflammatory marker had decreased when they examined the tomato juice drinker's blood. MCP1 is the inflammatory marker in this instance. -1, M for Michael, C for Charlie, and P for Peter. MCP1 failed. It's a sign of inflammation. In addition, too much body fat causes inflammation. This is yet another instance of a decrease in body fat. In addition to measuring weight, you also measured waist circumference and the inflammatory marker linked to fat. And that amounted to little more than a cup of tomato juice every day. Okay, now, before you buy commercial tomato juice, please check the label on the side to make sure there are no colorings, flavorings, or preservatives you don't want.